Hi, welcome. I'm Dave Stiegel, a shareholder at Lawton & Cates. And today we're going to talk about understanding and how to exercise your rights as it relates to interacting with a police officer. If there's anything I say in this video, as always, that sparks a question or makes you want to talk more or something's not clear, feel free to interact with me. I'd love to hear from you. You can either leave me a comment or ask a question through the YouTube here, or you can contact me directly. Both my phone number and email are located somewhere on the description to this video. Okay? Today, like I said, when we talk about interacting with the police officer, I'm going to focus on what I'll call police-citizen interactions, okay, that do not involve a car or a traffic stop and do not involve your home. I hope to talk about those specific police-citizen interactions, a car and at home, in subsequent videos down the road. Okay, so today I'll just focus on what I'll call a police-citizen encounter that does not involve a car, does not involve a home. So the beginning point is what rights are we talking about here? We're mainly implicating the Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution or Article 1, Section 11 of the Wisconsin Constitution. Okay, it deals with the prohibition against unreasonable government searches and seizures. Okay, I included the text of the federal Fourth Amendment in the description to this video because I think it's important to read if you haven't. It's not terribly long. It'd take you probably under 30 seconds to read the whole text, but it's important. And if you haven't done so, I'd encourage you to do just that, okay, at some point. So my only point in making this is to give you relatively clear, concise information on bigger picture concepts that will allow you to intelligently exercise your rights. Okay, let me give you a little disclaimer here. There have been hundreds of thousands of legal opinions written interpreting the Fourth Amendment. Law journals, law review articles, opinions, newspaper articles. Legal opinions all the way from the United States Supreme Court down to state circuit court levels. Okay? Although the text of the Fourth Amendment is not very long, its import and its effect on our daily lives is very, very important. Okay? And little tiny facts make big differences in these cases. So there's no way that I can part all of this. I can't summarize all of the Fourth Amendment to you in a 5-minute video, nor is there any way to know what specific situation you may have dealt with or be dealing with, okay? So I hope to give you enough where you maybe learn a thing or two that you didn't know, or at least practical information that you can use, but I would encourage you strongly if you have specific questions, especially if you have any sort of pending case that deals with these issues, you need to seek detailed advice from an expert in private in a consultation, okay, from a lawyer. All right? So here it goes. I'll summarize this. When you think of police-citizen interactions, imagine that I'm walking down the street, okay, and a police officer asks me a question. Hey, can I ask you a question? Did you see something? Or whatever else. He or she wants to talk to me about something that I may have seen or heard related to an investigation that the cops are conducting. What do I need to do? Well, I categorize interactions like that as consensual encounters. Okay, a consensual encounter is where the police on their end, they have no suspicion of wrongdoing to me necessarily. And on my end, I don't have any legal right or legal obligation to talk to the police. It's truly a consensual encounter. If to the extent that there's any interaction, both sides are consenting to it, okay? And it's not something formal. Simply as if the police ask me a question and I stop and respond to them, that's a consensual encounter. I've implicitly consented to their question and I'm answering it, okay? So if I'm walking down the street in my little made-up example and the police says, hey, Dave, can I ask you a question? Did you see, A, B, and C? I don't have to stop. I don't have to answer them. I have no legal compulsion to answer their questions. Okay? It's important for you to know that. Lots of people don't understand they have a right not to talk to the police. They can if they want to. I'm not necessarily, well, let me just say this. I'm not anti-police necessarily. All I'm saying is that it's very rarely in your best interest to answer police questions without talking to a lawyer first to make sure it's safe to do so. Okay? So, consensual encounters. It's limited only by the consent of both parties. The police are free to ask any question they want. They don't have to have a certain level of suspicion in order to ask you a question in public. Hey, can I search you? Do you have drugs in your car? Do you have a gun in your car? If you answer any of those questions, the police are going to use that information probably against you and act accordingly. Okay? And on the flip side, on your side of it, a consensual encounter, you don't have to stop or interact with the police if you just choose not to. Okay? On the far other end of the spectrum is called an arrest or a legal seizure. Okay? If a police officer physically puts his or her hands on you and says you're under arrest, or does something that causes you to submit to a show of authority. Okay? If a police officer draws his or her gun, points it at me, orders me to get down on my knees and then lay face down, that's a seizure. I'm not going anywhere, okay? And to do that, before they can arrest me, before they can cause me to legally submit to a show of authority, needs to be justified by probable cause, okay? To sustain a criminal conviction in court, it requires the highest proof in our law, proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Probable cause sounds like a very straightforward concept. It's 2 words, probable cause. Lots and lots of books and opinions have been written on the nuances of probable cause, so I'll spare you all of that discussion and simply say it's a much lower standard than proof beyond a reasonable doubt. The amount of evidence or suspicion that's needed to arrest somebody is much less than what it needs to be to sustain a criminal conviction in court. Okay? So probable cause to arrest. That's what the police need. There's a middle category there that it doesn't fall into a consensual encounter, but it's not, the police don't have enough evidence to arrest me. Let's say they're investigating me for some reason. And the police are allowed to do what's called an investigatory detention. They can temporarily detain me for questioning to see, sort of bear out some of their suspicions. Okay? So if over here you have a consensual encounter that doesn't require any level of suspicion, and on the other side, you have a seizure or arrest that requires probable cause. In the middle ground, it's an investigatory detention that requires what's called reasonable suspicion. Okay? So, proof beyond a reasonable doubt at trial, probable cause, reasonable suspicion is even lower. Okay? So is it reasonably likely that a person has committed or is in the process of committing a crime? If so, then the cops can reasonably and briefly detain me. Okay, that's called an investigatory detention. So figuring out where you are in a continuum sometimes isn't always that clear, and here's the rub of all of this. It may be that you disagree with the police officer on where you fall in this continuum. Maybe he or she has placed you under arrest, and you disagree and think it's all baloney. Maybe the cop has detained you, and you don't think they should be able to. Maybe you think you're really over in a consensual encounter. The law does not permit us to resist an unlawful arrest. Okay, that's the current state of our law in 2020. It does not allow us to permit to resist an unlawful arrest. What the law requires is that if I disagree with the arrest, okay, I should do so peacefully. I should submit to the arrest, let the officer do whatever, the arresting process, and then I should seek my recourse in court, and I should get a judicial decision or a judicial ruling that my arrest was borne out without probable cause or reasonable suspicion. Okay? You must seek your justice in court, and you got to get a court ruling deciding that it was in fact unlawful. If you just have the opinion that it's unlawful, that's not going to help you very much in court. Okay, you need to be able to convince a judge or present evidence that causes the judge to decide that the state is unable to prove the constitutionality of, an arrest or a detention. Okay, so here's my last couple recommendations for you. Okay, number 1, you should invoke your right to silence. Okay, if you're not sure, if the police ask you questions and you're at all not sure about what you should do or whether you should or should not answer questions or where you fall on this continuum, you should decide not to answer any questions, and you should contact a lawyer to talk about it. Okay? If the police are going to arrest you, they're going to arrest you whether you answer questions or not anyway. By answering questions, you are greatly increasing the odds that the police will gather enough evidence to arrest you. Okay? Statistically, that is just proven over and over and over again. Okay? So number one rule, number one recommendation, don't answer any questions until you can talk to a lawyer and he or she can tell you whether it's in your best interest to do so. Okay? Number two, don't consent to a search. If I'm out in public, like I said, and it's a consensual encounter, and the police say, hey, Dave, what do you have in your pocket, sir? Can I search your car? Or can I search your trunk? Or can I search your phone? Whatever the case may be. If I give them permission to do so, they're going to do it. And they're going to act accordingly. And if they find evidence of a crime, there may be repercussions. They may be detained or arrested. Okay? The police are asking you for permission to do something. Your general answer should be no until you can talk to a lawyer who can give you specific advice in private, in confidence. Okay? Finally, don't provide any false information. Don't provide any false documentations. Don't fight or struggle with the police. All of those actions generate probable cause. Okay? So if the police illegally seized you initially, but you fight or struggle, or you tell a lie, or you give false information, and they can prove that, now they have probable cause to arrest you for those crimes, and it makes your situation much, much worse. Okay? That's why my strongest advice, if you have any doubt where you are in a continuum, or what your rights are, or what you should say or should not say, you should remain quiet, assert your right to a silence, assert your right to an attorney, and talk to someone in private as soon as you can. Okay? I hope that's helpful. This continuum, probable cause, reasonable suspicion, or a consensual encounter. Remember, if you disagree with the officer, it's only a judge that can rule a stop was unlawful or unconstitutional. So you need to seek your recourse in court. I hope that's helpful for you. I hope it gives you some somewhat practical information that you can consider as you go about into the world. As always, if you have questions or concerns, or you would like me to tell you exactly and specifically what I would recommend or advise in your specific situation, please contact me. I'm happy to talk to you anytime. Otherwise, I appreciate your time and attention. I really do. I know lives are busy, and I appreciate you sitting through this, or hopefully it was some benefit to you. And I will talk to you at a future time. Thank you very much.